Even then, it still feels slightly much.
Okay, I think we're going to get started. Thank you all for attending LSE GREG's 8th quarterly, which is the longevity of the condo-hotel model. My name is James Walton. I'm the president of LSE Global Real Estate Group. We are a group of alumni practicing in the real estate industry. We look to tease out arbitrage opportunities or make people aware of new models, and not just awareness of them, but actually test them and look at sort of discrepancies, how they might perform under different pressures and movements and the determinants of the marketplace. We're hoping certainly most people today who are here have a fairly good understanding of what the condo hotel is all about, and some of its sort of cousins and different similar forms. What I want to do first is I'm just going to run through a little bit about LSE GREG, just take a few minutes. Then I will go through some of our topics we're going to talk about and then introduce you to our speakers. So LSE GREG is, like I was saying, formed to really discover informational, operational, and allocational discoveries, looking to better the real estate asset class, create friendships and business links, and really we're trying to find out, hopefully when you walk out of the room you'll be able to execute some sort of deal together. So we're not really just a think tank for just thinking's sake. We wanted to thank our sponsors, who are Patron Capital, Asia Pacific Land, and Donny de Pantera, and keep us going and make these events so we can pretty much invite, I think, pretty much everybody here without a charge. We've been experimenting as well for the last quarterly and this quarterly to invite in members of LBS and CAS Business Schools, so welcome to anyone who's a guest here. And really what we're also, at the end of this event, I should mention, you're all welcome to join us back at George IV, which is around the corner if you follow me after for a drink and continue networking. So today we're here to talk about longevity of the condo-hotel model. And we'll be addressing questions such as, is it possible to create a liquid market for condo-hotel shares? We're going to talk about other places where we see the condo-hotel developing, such as in the U.S., where we saw in 2006 somewhere around 25% of all new hotel developments implement this model effectively. And we're going to really talk about some of the determinants along the way that has made that possible. So, such as the existence of brands, why it's important to be in a place where there's a brand awareness or a brand loyalty, and is there a natural place in the market for a certain level, like say 25%, and maybe the U.S. hasn't actually reached an equilibrium, if that's the right word to use, in that effect. Perhaps we would see that rise even further. Talk a bit about the current entry price of substitutes. So, for example, right now in London, Guest Invest is pretty well known for allowing people who would like to have possibly a flat or some access, some occupational access to very nice parts of London, but can't afford it. They actually are able to do this by accessing essentially a smaller piece of the pie, if you will, making it more affordable. And the pie being in smaller shape and the smaller pieces is now greater in value than it would be if it hadn't been divided as such. And then we can talk a little bit about sentiment. And I quote Johnny, and also I should mention, actually, you probably anyone who knows Johnny Sandelson, this is not Johnny Sandelson, this is Nick Butterworth, who's Johnny's been taken ill today, or maybe that's too. It's not feeling too well today. So Nick is Director of Business Development, and he's going to be answering most of our questions. So don't make the questions any easier just because it's not Johnny, okay? That also kind of brings me to the point that during this whole presentation, you're welcome to just fire questions back and forth. Both speakers prefer that to sort of, sitting on your question until the end, so just feel free to speak up. So since Johnny's not here, I'll quote him anyway, because he sent me over some details about himself. One of the things that he said in his bio was investing in what guest invest do. They invest in a buy-to-let hotel room, which offers you the status, all the status, with none of the hassle. So part of this is it's cool to have occupational rights in parts of very, very distinctive parts of cities around the world that are very expensive, but also there's a lot of hassle that's taken out of the situation in terms of management. So moving swiftly on, we're also going to talk about really who's investing in condo hotels. We commonly think, I know I was out on the edge of Berkeley, or I should say Barclay Street, a couple of years ago, and people were handing out leaflets to obviously get people on the street to understand what Guest Invest was doing. And so it is really that type of marketing that I've been used to seeing, rather than sort of going to institutions and trying to sell larger pieces. And that kind of does make sense, because it's all about that smaller piece of the pie and selling it to people who it kind of fits. But I think that we should also be thinking, are there other groups that might be missing out on this, such as pension funds? And finally, I think what we're really here to talk about today is teasing out some sort of arbitrage situation. So the best model Johnny launched in 2004, and that's not been a huge amount of time for model and testing its longevity. So some things we want to think about are what happens when guarantee periods expire. So as you're probably used to seeing their guaranteed income at some level, 6%, 7%, for a number of years or a period of months. And what happens when those fall away, and then certain determinants begin to impact the market more adversely. One thing we're going to talk about in more detail today as well is the liquidity. In some of SAR's work, Jones Lang LaSalle, it's mentioned that condo-hotel liquidity is quote-unquote emerging liquidity. So I'm kind of curious as to what emerging liquidity means. And I also want to think of it from the bank's perspective. Obviously, we know banks are behaving a little bit differently than they did 6 months or a year ago, depending on where you are. Maybe even a little bit further back than that, but certainly in the last few months. And really, does this level of liquidity in any way impact what lenders are willing to give in comparison to, say, a residential sale that's negotiated by private treaty, for example? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Again, Nick Butterworth, Director of Business Development, is standing in for Johnny. I'm afraid I'm going to have to let you introduce yourself, as I don't have a bio for you today. But Sarah, you're lucky enough that I do. Sarah Sharon is Vice President of Jones Lang LaSalle Hotels. Sarah joined JLL Hotel Capital Markets Advisory Team in London in November 2005, and is in charge of portfolio work and has advised on a range of corporate advisory tasks, including the exit strategy of Fairmount Hotels and Resorts, which is a pan-European portfolio, 2 Fairmount hotels, 3 Swiss hotels in Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands, and arranged an exit strategy for IGA Viability, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and the disposal of 5 Marriott hotels in the UK. Acquisition advice for Montcalm Estates, the Reuben Brothers for Interhotel portfolio of 13 hotels across Germany. Prior to being with Jones Lang LaSalle, Sarah had been the head of banking department at Rand Finger Law Offices in Israel. Sarah consulted and litigated numerous cases involving private and corporate solvency, sales of distressed assets, mortgage refinancing, foreclosures, and enforcement. And particularly topical, I suppose, in some of these markets we're coming into. And he dealt with contract negotiations in the commercial sphere, and public and private real estate developments of recreation, retirement homes, and public housing. Sarah's a graduate from the L'École Hôtelière de l'Essonne with an MBA with distinction in international hospitality management, together with Le Diplôme d'études postgraduates. HES, sorry, I can just almost see my French teacher and beat me up when I walk outside the door here. It's been a long time. and Management de Hotelier de Professionnel de l'École. Sarr holds an LLM from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and an LLB from Sussex University. He's a member